Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Are you ready to explore the unknown? Dive into the world of the strange, mysterious, and unexplained with Eerie Expeditions magazine. Each issue is packed with spine-tingling tales, cutting-edge paranormal investigations, and exclusive insights into hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and more. Whether you're a seasoned investigator or just love a good ghost story, Eerie Expeditions magazine has something for you. Join our growing community of truth seekers and adventure lovers. Subscribe today at EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com and unlock the secrets of the supernatural. Are you ready? That's EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com, where the extraordinary is just a click away. Dare to discover.
What's out there? What creates the shadows in the corners or the creatures of the dark? Who are those on the other side? What do they have to say? This is the Gateway Podcast. This is not your normal style of paranormal talk radio. Brought to you live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans.
And welcome to this episode of the Gateway Podcast. I'm your host, C.L. Thomas. I'm in Las Vegas, and we're broadcast live from 107.7 FM New Orleans. How's everyone doing out there tonight? So you were listening to Into the Night with Sean Kelly, and he comes on again on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern, and this Sunday I'm going to be joining him, so stay tuned for that. We're going to have a lot of fun. Vegas weather. Let me talk about the weather for a second. It's been rainy and stormy all day, which is unheard of here. There was actually a tree right out front of my house that had fallen over because of the wind. Very strange, right? Especially this time of year. It's usually really dry and everything. Hold on, guys. My dog decides to just be weird. She's just weird. Every time I'm on the radio with you guys, she starts acting up and doing stuff. So I have a call out. I need some help with Eerie Expeditions magazine. I'm looking to hire somebody to help me with the content for social media. So if anyone out there wants to help, it's not going to be a full-time gig or anything like that, but it is going to be hourly. Particularly, I'm looking for an intern. It is a paid position. If you're interested, please contact me. It's contact@eerieexpeditions.com. Again, it's contact@eerieexpeditions.com. It's eerieexpeditionsmagazine.com. I'm sorry. And no, you do not have to be in the United States to help. So hook me up. Again, that is contact@eerieexpeditionsmagazine.com. Hi, Mish. How are you? So mediumship. I'm about to go off on a little rampage for a minute here before I bring my guest up. So without saying any names, people often wonder why I really don't like the paranormal shows anymore and why I kind of separated from it. Yeah, somebody sent me a little clip today, and it's of this guy, and I'm not going to say his name or anything like that. He is well known in the paranormal community as being a medium. But I mean, look, guys, what is mediumship and what is it not? That's what we're going to discuss tonight on the show. We're going to discuss messages from the other side and kind of what that looks like. And we're not going to, we're not going to diss people and all that sort of thing. But this video is of this guy, and he goes into this haunted building, and right away he gets possessed by a demon or some negative entity. Then he tells the cameraman that the spirits know that I'm here and I'm going to be under attack, and so are you. I need to do the crystal protection spell. So then he throws up his hands. It's very theatrical. He throws up his hands and he goes, protection, protection, protection. Just like that. And then all of a sudden, he's supposed to be normal and just ridiculous. This is not what mediumship is. It just kind of set me on a rampage. And I'm a little bit tired of these shows and the theatrics like this, because that's not what mediumship is. At least for me, that's not what mediumship is. Just because you're a medium doesn't mean that you can go into a building and become possessed by demons. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I am going to post something about this later. I am going to blur out the guy's face so that, there's no issues there or anything like that. I might even disguise his voice a little bit, but you're still going to be able to tell what's going on in the video. So look out for that later on tonight. But tonight, my guest, psychic medium Rick Hayes. He's a good friend of mine. We've met at Rock Island Paracon up in Illinois last year, and I love his work. He does great work. He's a psychic medium, and he's also a life coach, and he teaches Believe. I just really love this guy. He's so positive. Hi, Rick. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, CL, it's great to be back with you again. It's great to see that smile.
So, I mean, what do you think? Before we even go deep into messages from the other side. Okay.
Well, we my feelings is, first of all, out of respect to everyone, but you said the key word there. It was a show. And, you see a lot on television, and I've worked in television, I've done television, I'm still doing television. But one of the key things that I did when I first began being approached with TV shows is I have shared with them, I said, I'm going to be me. Don't try to script me. Don't try to make me be something I'm not. And if that's not going to work for you, there's others in this industry that are happy to be a script, But the key here was a show. We see a lot of that, and we got to be logical about it. I mean, that type of stuff you're talking about has a drive for people to see what's going on. So it actually is a ratings booster, and I've said this I just said this past week. I've been in this industry now for over 23 years, 24 years, maybe 25. And I've seen those in the industry that find themselves as psychic mediums. The first thing they want to do is do the theatrics like you're talking about, or they want to be someone like some of the high ranking psychic mediums in this industry, and they try to imitate them. And in about 3 to 5 years, we don't hear from them anymore. And the reason is because they're not being themselves. If you truly have the mediumship ability and you truly have the psychic mediumship abilities, then by all means, you don't need to do all that other stuff. And just to add to that, I have been in this, and it's been a thrill for me. And I have been in every haunted location you could probably name in the United States and parts of Canada. And I've had those that will say, Rick, when you go in there, be careful because it's haunted and it's got demonic spirit in there. And I look at them and say, okay, like no big deal. And they look at me like, are you prepared? And it's like, yeah, I have no problem with it, because they're going to mess with me if I allow them to. They're going to. And I don't deal with those type of entities. I don't even use demonic. I feel like that gives them control, that gives them power. I call them negative. They're exactly what they are, negative energies. And so when I go in these locations, it's like I'm not going to deal with that. And I don't need to act theatrical to connect, I'll put my head down sometimes. I may look over at them sometimes. I may look up sometimes, but I don't do none of that
Crazy
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah. So and again, I respect the person you're talking about, and if that's the way he does it, that's the way he does it. But 9 times out of 10, if he's doing that, he's on a show that says that.
That's so crazy to me, though. I don't know. The thing of it is that the people will watch these shows, and the ones that don't know anything about, mediumship and how it works, they think that's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get asked that question too about going into a haunted location. How do you protect yourself? And, aren't you opening yourself out to demonic entities and things like that? And I just don't believe that because you can connect to the other side, that you automatically open a door to demonic entities and become possessed.
Yeah,
I believe you can see them, but at the same time,
yeah. I've shared this for years. When I've shared that I take my Fantastic Four with me, and everybody looks at me like if I got a briefcase or got sage or something with me, and they say, "What's your Fantastic Four?" And it's simple. When I go into a location, they tell me it's haunted or negative energies. My Fantastic Four is number one. I'm going to go in there with a positive attitude because positive overcomes negative every time. The second is I'm in control. They're not in control. I'm in control. These shows have a tendency to make us feel like these negative energies has control. They don't. We have the control. The third is I have a creator more powerful than anything, and so I know I'm protected that way. And the fourth is kind of a humorous statement, but at the same time it's a fact. I have family in the next part of life and spirit. You don't mess with my family, if you know what I mean. There's nothing. I know there's some in this industry feels like you got to sage the place first, or you got to go through some kind of ritual first, or it's simple. I try to keep everything simple, CL. I just simply say, take control, go in with a positive attitude, because I promise you, if you're an investigator, if you're going into a place, you'll get more activity if you go in there wanting to learn from them and wanting to learn about the place than you will going in there and saying, "Oh, right away it's demonic." It's. I'll leave it at that.
So when you do go into a place like, the Rock Island, you have that Paracon coming up, the Rock Island Paracon.
Yeah, and that's my third year.
Yeah, that I was in there last year, and it's a really old building. It's got a lot of history to it. It is very haunted. There is some dark spirits there too, but I don't feel like when I walk in there, I'm going to be liable to be possessed, or there was a lot of people in there saying that they were that they had taken home like bad energy and all this sort of thing. I don't know. Is that a product of watching these shows and that's what they think? For me, I can say this. When I go into a location like that, sometimes I do have negative interactions with spirits. It's not all like daisies and things like that when I go into some places, but at the same time, it's not like these TV shows. I don't feel like you have to be afraid to go into these places. And for me, the number one thing that I experience when I go into these places is all of the different spirits from different time periods become really overwhelming and confusing for me. So
totally
it's not
understand.
It's not so much a negative thing. It's more dealing with peeling the layers of, okay, this spirit is from this time period and this went on there. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of peeling an onion and it gets overwhelming.
And you keep in mind when you go in locations like that, they're there to help us. They're to help us to understand the history and the memories that was created there. They're not there to harm us per se. They're saying, hey, this is what happened to me. A good example of that is the Rock Island location up there. The first year I was there, I didn't know anything about the place, and I usually don't, but I was led to a floor, And we went to this room, and Candy was with me, and my assistant was with me, and I was led into this room, and I went up against this wall, and I felt immediately I put my back away from the wall and had my hands up against the wall, and I was kind of being guided. I always tell everybody, nobody goes in this body. Okay, I don't do the Whoopi Goldberg thing. Nobody goes in this body. Okay, so but they helped me by understanding the experience there, and I had my hand up to the wall, and I felt they were telling me to feel this, and I was feeling like I was being smacked or slapped or strapped on my back, and I didn't quite understand. I also felt like it was a female telling me this. Well, Candy told me later that if you know the history of this location, at one time it was used as a brothel, and there was a lady there that was pretty notorious for being pretty nasty, and she would actually take her ladies into that room and whip them with leather straps, and that's what I was getting. So, immediately when I was getting that, did I feel like it was a negative energy that was trying to attack me? Absolutely not. They were saying, "Here, Rick, I want you to know what happened, what it went through." That's all they were doing. And so a lot of times I feel like that when we go in places like one, I feel like we're going in there hoping or maybe thinking because of way we've watched shows and things that something bad's supposed to be in there automatically. Like for example, prison or something like that. So, but oftentimes I found most often, and it sounds like they're doing exactly what you're saying. They want us to know if they worked there, if they had an experience there, if they visited there, and what time period they were there at that time. That building we're talking about for the Rock Island has been, I don't know, 1800s, I think. So
Yeah,
just think how many individuals and how many people were in there and how many worked there. And now they did tell me that I didn't get down there, but I'm going there this year where the pool area is. There is some people have been telling me there's some negative things down there, and so I'll be there in October, I believe. And when I do, Candy usually lets me go roam, so I'll probably go down there and see what I can pick up down there. So, but again, it's all most of the times, like you said, they're wanting us to understand what happened there, what was going on.
Right. Well, I picked up a lot of stuff from that building as well. There was a lot of kids in there.
Yeah.
For some reason. And it was almost like I didn't really look at the history when I was there. I keep forgetting to do that. But it was like the kids were kind of in lockup or something almost. I couldn't quite figure that out. And then there was a drowning of some sort that I had picked up on. And it was something else too. There's a tunnel. There's a tunnel leading from a house somewhere around there that was being used as like almost to move like liquor maybe or something like that. They were moving something by tunnel. So that's what I picked up on, but I don't have any of that, nothing confirmed about that, about the building. So it'll be interesting to see what you pick up on when you're in there.
Oh, I will. I usually go into a restaurant and eat at a restaurant. It's like, oh, what are you doing over there?
It's interesting because I learned when I was there too that there was like a shootout right in front of the hotel, the main hotel that Candy uses there. There was a big like monster shootout or something right there.
Oh wow, okay, didn't know that.
I won't tell any more secrets about.
All right.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you come up with. I'll follow up with you after you go.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I won't be there this year, but maybe, in years to come, who knows? When did you first become aware that you could communicate with those on the other side?
When I started walking, started talking, literally. And I share this. We're all born with abilities, gifts, and skills. Being a medium is not uncommon. Actually, it's born here from our spirit to our physical, and we're born here to know that there's more than just life. But as we're growing up, our society and our environment tells us it's a coincidence, imagination, so we begin to block it. And so, but for me, First of all, I was raised in a religious upbringing, going to church a lot. My grandfather was an evangelist and minister, and I'm very proud of that. But I grew up being taught about the next part of life, that this is not all there is to life. And so it helped me to recognize even more when I was seeing those in spirit as a little kid. I recognized this, but I always share with everyone, I didn't talk about it. I kept it to myself until about 25 years ago. Lived with it, but I just accepted it as part of my life. But at the same time, I didn't talk about it. Part of the reason is because of religious upbringing. The other part was I wanted friends, CL, and people wouldn't be your friend if you was telling you see people around them. So I just kind of kept it to myself. But I recognized it early, and like I said, we all have. I've been teaching for the last several years others who are recognizing their abilities and helping them to evolve with them and grow with them and be comfortable with them and be patient with them. So I recognized it early in my life. I didn't get hit by a Mack truck or anything like that at 15 or anything like that. I was born with them.
Was your family open to it? Being from a religious background?
Not particularly. I mean, we didn't talk about it. We still don't talk about it much, and I respect that. They respect me. They're recognizing more and more how I'm actually being to others and helping them, and they're very proud of me for the success been done. And but they're still my one sister is my right arm, my backbone, and she takes care of all the back end stuff. And then I got another sister here in the last couple of years, been traveling with me to do some private group sessions and things like that. So, but we get together as family. We just talk family. We don't talk much about what I do, and I'm okay with that, and I respect that. And I respect their views. If we're, like I said, we're raised in a traditional church-oriented atmosphere, and they have their beliefs, and I totally respect that.
I know another medium who came from a religious background as well, and she had a really hard time growing up, being a medium and then dealing with, the family's, I guess, judgments on, or I guess the rhetoric about mediumship being from the Christian church.
I didn't have so much of a struggle with family at all. Most of my struggle as a young kid is I was short and little, and then I graduated from high school and when it got into college, grew like 5 inches. And it's like 2 inches, like too late now, But I never really. My family respected me. We just didn't talk about it. Through the years growing up, we didn't talk about it, and there was moments I would say something, and we kind of just leave it at that. We didn't, and they, I'm fortunate and very blessed to be in a very, very loving family, and we're all close and together, and so they respect me and I respect them, and I think that's helped, respecting each other.
What else helps too, I think, just from you being from that kind of a background, they teach about heaven and hell and the spirit world. You have a spirit, it kind of opens that door a little more to understand at a much younger age what's going on with mediumship.
Yeah, I actually share that. Actually, when I was in college, I took a year of psychology because I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. It had nothing to do with my degree, but I was just trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And then also in my 20s, I really studied different types of religion, not just the Baptist, Methodist, King James version that I grew up in, but also Catholic, Mormonism, Buddhism, the Tao, the Quran. I studied all that, and the reason I did that was I was trying to find answers. And one of the things I shared that really helped me with my upbringing was I didn't just study about the words in the Bible. I studied when the history of the Bible was written, and I recommend that if you have questions about look at also the history of when the time it was written, because that will give you a lot of insight of these individuals who wrote with divine writing, but they were in a time frame, and it will answer a lot. For example, it'll give you an answer of how they define it, what they defined as hell, where they came from, and it really brought comfort to me in knowing that now I have a better understanding. I like saying this now because I'm at the age now I can say this. I am after 20 some years in this industry, and at my age, because I do carry a Medicare card now, and so I am now, I can say I'm the wise old man on the mountain in this industry because I've attained it. So I'm the wise old man on the mountain. So
I'm gonna start calling you oh wise one.
well, wise one, yeah. I'll take it. It's all happening right here, so I'll take it.
Well, we do have a question from the audience. Mish asks, here, I'll post this one up here. How far back in time can you feel things? And this is an interesting question because
yeah,
even in the paranormal world, most of the evidence that people collect tend to be like Victorian, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
But
I've connected. I've got several clients that we've been doing for several years now. We've been doing their family tree, and we went way back to the 1700s, and you know, it's, you got to understand this. Time is of this element, of this earth, of this. There is no time in this life. Time is created here, and so if I connect with someone that is from, you know, the early 1700s, they will that they will help me to understand that they lived here on the earth in a body in the 1700s, but time to them, it's almost like yesterday when they speak to me about it. So how far back, and that's a great question, by the way, was that Mish that
was
gave
Mish.
us that? Okay, great question, Mish, because there's really, if you look at it, there's really not a time frame or going back in time. You know, I've had, I don't talk about this a lot, but I do feel that we have an opportunity and a choice to return, and that is where the definition of past lives come in. I do feel like we have the opportunity, if we choose to come into another part of life in a different environment, in different form, and learn from that, because life is continual learning. And so there's been times that they've actually taken me back. I was on a Viking ship about a month or two ago because they were showing me this person was on a Viking ship, and so I was on the end of the ocean in some Viking ship, and I was standing next to this guy that looked rough. So, but I mean, even back then, so it could be someone from the last year, last month, or it could be someone 500 years ago, you know.
Right. Most investigators, the paranormal investigators, when they use that equipment and things to capture, you know, like photographs, EVPs, all that sort of thing, they tend to get a lot of stuff from that Victorian age group for some reason. You know, kind of always wondered why that is. You know, do they just does that energy just kind of dissipate?
Well, no, I think it has a lot to do with where they're at. First of all, where the location at. You know, they may be in a building that's only 30 years old, but what did the ground inhabit before that? You know, what did the land inhabit before that? The other thing is Victorian, it seems, I'm sorry to say this, but Victorian seems like a popular time that everybody wants to connect with in this industry again. And it's like, well, we had other times too, you know, besides Victorian. So we had the Stone Age at one time. So, but yeah, I feel like it has a lot to do with the location they're actually at, because again, it could be, if it's someone from the Victorian time, again, they're wanting you to know. I very seldom see them as what they look like in their physical body. I see them in spirit. I see most of the time the elongated light, very colorful in the center. But if I'm in locations like the Rock Island location, I will actually see them sometimes as a physical body. And the reason for that is because they want me to know it, first of all, if they worked there, if they visited there, if they lived there. The second is they want me to see how they're dressed or how their attire is, so I can get a better understanding of the time frame they were here. And so I get that sometimes.
Have you
Victorian dress, sometimes in Victorian dresses and sometimes in mini skirt.
Mini skirts? From like the 30s?
No, 60s, 70s. It can go Victorian to mini skirts.
I know that they were kind of risque in the 20s with some they were doing, but yeah, I'm not real sure when it came out.
Can I tell you a quick story on that? I've got a lot of experiences. We'd be here all night if I told all my experiences, but I was at a resort. This was several years ago, and I was at a resort, and I was there just to relax and unwind. And it's a very historic location, and it's very highfalutin, I guess you would call it. But I was actually sitting there, and I was having a glass of wine. My girlfriend was with me. We were sitting there in the center of this place, and all of a sudden, I had this lady in spirit come up to me, and she leaned over, and it's a hotel resort. She leaned over, and she said, "What room are you staying in?" and my girlfriend at the time, she knew me, and she looked over at me, and she knew I was connecting, and she said, is anybody here? And I said, yes. And she said, do you see him? I said, yes. And she said, what do they look like? And I said, well, it's a female. And I said, she's got a dark red satin, looked like a flapper dress and a little beret thing. And it had like sequins on it or something. And she said, well, what's she wanting? I said, she asked me what room I was in. And right away, my girlfriend said, will you tell her we're not staying here? We're not staying here. You tell her to leave. We're not staying here. And I said, she's gone. I thought that's the first time I ever had a girlfriend get jealous of someone in spirit. So
that is crazy.
On that is, she showed me what she looked like and what she did there and what she wore, because then that way I could tell it's from the 1920s, and that's why she did that. So, yeah.
For those that are trying to develop mediumship, it's a good idea to kind of look at the common outfits from the different time periods, because that is a good way to decipher. Just to give you an idea, like where was I? Somewhere down here, Armagosa Valley. That's where I was, Armagosa Valley. And I saw a bunch of men with this funny looking hat. I had no idea what this hat was. I never seen it before. And it turns out that it was a common hat that the miners wore at the time. So, and it was like, 1920s, somewhere in that time period. So that work, they would have had the knickers and that, I don't even know, a fedora, maybe kind of like a fedora almost. But yeah. So I think it's a good idea anyway, to kind of look at what the outfits were, because that is how they show up. That is what they show you.
Yeah, and again, just keep in mind they're wanting to help you. They want to understand, about their life and about their life in that location or about their life in general, and they're trying to show you things. There's this thing in the industry they call residual spirit, which is, they say, is someone that's trapped and stuck in the same routine. I give the example of, I must be a residual spirit, because every morning when I wake up, first thing I do is go down the stairs, same routine, go down the stairs, go into my coffee, go to my coffee, get my cup of coffee, and go over to the patio and look outside. And then, I got the same routine every day. I think when we're getting that, we're just seeing those in spirit saying, hey, this was what I did in my routine here. This is my life. And they're not stuck. I mean, I always say if they can walk through walls and everything else, well, how could they be stuck? They're not going to be stuck. They're just showing you what their life was like. And that's when you're a medium, when you're recognizing your mediumship abilities, like you said, if you see them, first of all, if you see them, acknowledge them. But if you see them, just pay attention to what they're helping you. So pay attention to what they're wearing. Like you saw the hats, and then you recognize that from the 1920s as miners, that they worked as miners, and they wanted you to see that they worked hard there. That was their life there. And so pay attention to that.
I do want to take a couple more questions. We have a lot of questions tonight. I'll post this one. Stone Hobbit, he says, can I ask a question? Did any of your abilities grow from trauma or deeper?
No, not really. I didn't have much trauma in my life. I would consider trauma. I've had a few challenges in my life, but there was nothing that really affected me with my abilities because, again, like I said earlier in the show, I know I was born with these abilities in spirit, and the only traumatic time I can reflect on was I was like 27 years old, and I had a health situation that I was in the hospital and unconscious for about 31 days, and I didn't recognize how bad I was. And at that time, there's only two times I remember being conscious during that time. One was my dad was sitting right next to my bed, and tears were coming down his eyes, and I couldn't understand because my dad didn't cry, and I couldn't understand why he was crying. Well, I found out later I was in critical condition. And then the second thing was that I argued with I argued with an angel. I actually argued with an angel. I had an angel come to me, and I'll never forget it. I was and I said, "Let's go." And that angel shared with me. And if you don't believe in angels, you better start believing them because they're real. But I had an angel telling me. And I said, "Let's go." And they said, "It's not your time. You got more to do." And I said, "What do I got to do?" Because I was 27. I wasn't doing this stuff yet. And I said, "What I got to do?" And I argued. I said, "I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get out of this body. I'm ready to go." And it kept telling me, "You got more to do." Well, I didn't know it at the time. The angel won the argument, and I'm glad it did because I can see now what it was trying to tell me, that what I've been doing for the last 25 years, serving others, helping others, recognizing the beauty of life and the everlasting life, that I had more to do. I still have more to do.
I just love the positivity from you.
Well, that's me. That's why you won't see me anywhere going, "Oh," won't do that.
Oh, man. So when you hear messages from the spirit world, can you explain to the audience how you know that it's from spirit and not just your imagination? That's like the hardest thing to develop.
It is.
Self and that sort of thing.
It is. And growing up, I was told I had a very vivid imagination. I'm not going to deny I have imagination. I imagine things, but I now know, even before I shared this in the public, I knew what was real, what was imagination, what was not, what was my abilities. And the best way I can put it is that I'm talking to you right now. I'm talking to you in body, so I'm talking to you right now. Now I could imagine that you have someone. I could say, "See how you got someone standing in front of you," and I start describing it. Well, that's my imagination because I know that's coming from my mind and my brain and not from my spiritual thought. And it's a simple of understanding your abilities, your mediumship abilities. The more you understand, the more you grow with them, the more you evolve them, the more you'll realize what is mediumship, what is your spiritual, and what is your physical and logical, and what's your imagination. So there's no rocket science to us. It's just simply just recognizing, and sometimes I always say this, we get things sometimes, and we have a tendency, because of our society upbringing, we have a tendency to second guess ourselves, like, "Oh, that must be my imagination thinking that. I thought of her, and that's what I thought of her just now because I miss her." Well, no, don't second guess that. If suddenly you get that and you don't know why you got it, it's because your loved one is saying, "I'm right here with you." Don't second guess that. That's the other thing I teach is, once you understand you have the abilities, your core ability that you have, start working with it, and then it'll become more understanding for you what is imagination and what is not.
How do you deal with, I'm going to ask another question here, kind of along the same lines. Whenever you're getting the message from spirit, like, how do you, trying to think how to ask the question. How do you deliver that message, and what is the overall point to mediumship? Is it just so that we can go out and do shows and galleries and things like that, or is there I know you already mentioned helping people.
If you think it's that, if you think it's doing shows and things, you're going to fail. You're just going to fail. Mediumship is you get to celebrity status. You get by doing one thing, and that is just simply serving others and focusing on that. These other things like the show tonight, media, and things like that comes along, and you accept it because just like tonight, you and I are reaching people tonight and talking about this and getting them to think about it and getting them to maybe realize maybe they have abilities as well. So it's just if you're looking at it as just trying to make it, like I said, in 3 to 5 years you'll be gone if that's what you're doing. What was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
What's the actual point to mediumship? What's its purpose? Why do some people have these gifts in the first place?
The purpose, CL, is simple. It's to know that this isn't all there is to life. We're to embrace life. We're to enjoy life. We're to learn and get all we can in this life because there's another part of life coming. And people say, well, what if I don't believe in the next part of life? What if I believe this is all there is? I got an answer to that. Well, one day you're really going to know, aren't you? Because you're going to find out. So, yeah, I mean, the point of mediumship is just to really realize the value of the totality of life itself, and getting the most of it. And I talk about this, when you're on your purpose path and that you're actually utilizing an ability or a gift or something that you've gotten in your life, man, it changes your whole life. It enriches your life and fulfills your life. I haven't woke up with an alarm clock and I don't in years and years and years. I wake up every morning ready to go and excited about the day, couldn't wait for this show tonight because it's like I get to see my friend CL tonight. So, but it changes your life whenever you start living life happily and living and recognize what the value of this life, and that's what mediumship is all about. If you look at now, I'm going a little bit of history here. If you want to study. If you look at the mediumship back in the days, times, mediums were like a part of society. It was like if you had a toothache, you go to the dentist now. It's like a medium was, they guided the government, they guided the city, they guided individuals. They were a big part of so the mediumship has always been there. It's got some of the mediums have created bad raps for mediums, and even some of the scriptures written in the book is kind of puts down mediums. But medium is simply you're getting the opportunity to recognize and to acknowledge that life continues on.
Do you think everybody has abilities to some extent?
I do, and it's growing. I mean, it's growing. I've shared this in the last few years. In the last few years, we've seen a growth. We've seen a shift. We've seen changes. Had nothing to do with COVID, even though it was around that time, but had nothing to do with COVID. But people are becoming more open. People are becoming saying, hey, there's more than life than just here. I'm starting to feel that. And just because I was raised to think this way, I'm starting to feel I need to think of it this way. And they're starting to say, wait a minute. I think I did see something over there, standing over there, and it's great because we all have it. We're all born with these abilities. Doesn't it make sense that we are born with something to say, now this is going to be a part of your life here, but don't think this is over when it's done. You got more after this. So we're going to show you, these individuals are in the next part of life so that you can get a validation for yourself if nothing else. And so that, to me, we're all born with these abilities. Again, we're just told it's imagination and coincidence, and we start utilizing them.
It is fascinating. You're right. It has become. It's almost like It's becoming like a collective consciousness coming into the forefront. Like everybody's acknowledging it. And I used to think that it was just here in the United States because of all the TV shows, the paranormal shows and stuff that was on TV. But that's not the case, because when you travel overseas, like places like Romania, Germany, they've always had it to an extent. They've always had, I don't want to call it superstition, but they've always had acknowledgement to spirit in some way, and it's becoming deeper.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Romania, it's everywhere now. So
Yeah,
it is interesting.
Yeah, it's not just the United States; it's worldwide, and it's and if you just focus on that, then that's the other thing I teach. If you focus on your spiritual side of your direction, and kind of refrain from all the things going on in the world, you're actually going to elevate and grow even more. Because I'm not saying stick your head in the sand, but I always share this: I'm in this world, but I'm not of this world. In other words, I don't allow things going on around this world to affect me, because if you have these abilities and you recognize these abilities and you start, I always say, if you get up in the mornings, first thing you do is turn on the news or get your coffee and turn on the TV and the news. It's like then all of a sudden you're being drained, and it will affect your abilities as well. So yeah, do that as well.
Yeah, in your work, you work a lot with counseling people, or not counseling, but being like a life coach, right?
Yes.
Do you do that on a spiritual level?
I do and I don't. I always like saying I've got a kind of an advantage when I life coach someone, because I have their loved ones in spirit that kind of help me too, and I don't really put away, but I do. But I have a life coach that I've learned from for 20 years maybe. He is the life coach in this industry. I've learned from him. I continue to learn from him. His name's Tony Robbins, and just a great guy. And I learned from him about, I guess I created my program, the Believe program, and then Lead to Be a Better You program about 8 years ago. And the reason I did that, CL, is because I had individuals coming to me and they saying, Rick, you're helping us to get comfortable with the next part of life and understanding the next part of life. But what about life here? What about my marriage? What about my relationship? What about my career? What is my purpose? And what we do is we work to balance your life, to balance those things that may be lower too high, and we find that balance where you can feel more, get more out of life along the way. And I've been fortunate enough that it's been something that's been a part of my umbrella of the things I do, and it's been very rewarding for me to watch people change their lives and change their outlook on life and their perspective of life, and it's a reward for me as well.
That is so amazing. Have you seen people overcome like physical illnesses and things like that just from changing over like that?
I have, and I don't. Here's another thing. Someone will be on your show. They'll say they're a healer. They'll touch you, and all of a sudden they're healed. I think it has a lot to do with energy. One of the things I teach in life coaching is, at my age, I'm supposed to be on all this doctor's medication, all these prescriptions, and it just overwhelms my insurance agent when we talk, and I'm not on any medication. I take a B12, I take a vitamin, I take some herbs, but it all comes here. How you feel physically has a lot to do with how your mindset, your emotion set, how it's creating your physical set. If you got a file cabinet up here in your mind and it's filled with negative stuff, and the first thing you do is get up in the morning and be negative, guess what? Your physical body's going to react to it, and your physical body's going to start feeling blah. But if you put up here, I feel good, I feel refreshed, I feel energized, the energy is going to flow to me and heal me today, it all heals up. I'll give you a very good example. In January, I fell backwards upstairs in the guest room, fell flat back on my back. I was in bed for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, And the whole time I didn't go to the doctor, didn't go to the hospital. My family was mad at me because I didn't. But I just kept telling myself, I'm going to heal this. I'm going to heal this. And I was on a cane for about another 2 weeks after that, but I'm now without a cane, and I'm still walking gingerly, but my body is healing because every morning I get up and say my body is going to be well today. And I know that sounds out there and mystical and all that, but I'm telling you, if you put your mind in the right frame of mind, it takes care of your body as well.
I 100% believe that, because just from my own life experiences, yeah, I 100% believe that. And also, there's a book I'm reading right now from a physician. It's called The Heart of Healing. It was written a while back, but it was by the guy's name is Cousins, and he was a PhD, and he was in academia in the medical school at UCLA. And this guy, he was very athletic. He ended up having a heart attack, and he was spent, I forget how many weeks in the hospital. It was like a month or so in the hospital. And they wanted him to get an angiogram and all that sort of thing, a stent, this and that. And he wouldn't do it. And the reason he wouldn't do it is because they were telling him that, he couldn't laugh, he couldn't read, he couldn't do all this stuff. All he had to do was lay there because his heart was so sick. And he just totally didn't agree with that. He felt like he needed to laugh. He needed to bring in positive energy into his life. And he did this entire life change to where he would walk. He was paying more attention to his wife. He was spending more time painting. He became very spiritual, and he completely healed himself. Like the doctors, when he went back for testing, he no longer needed the angiogram or any of that kind of stuff. It's pretty amazing. So,
yeah. And I share. You gotta. I share. Listen to the experts. Any messages I get, either medically or legally, the first thing the clients is, you still listen to the experts. You still listen to the doctors. You still listen to the law enforcement or legal. So you listen to them. But just if for those listening now, if you wake up and we'll do this in the morning, wake up in the morning, and the first thing to do is when you wake up, think of 3 good things in your life. And then the second is to say thank you, because you've got a day that no one else is going to have. So you should be appreciative of that. And then get up and smile, and just put a smile on your face, because that does something that brings endorphins into your brain as well. So if you do those 3 things in the mornings, people's going to say, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with her? She's changing or he's changing. It's like, just try that. Try it for 27 straight days. That's what I always say. Try it for 27 straight days.
And yes, I'm not saying to stop taking your medication or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. Just wanted to clear that up with the listeners out there. I want to turn it back to mediumship. We kind of went off the deep end there. Whenever you do get messages from loved ones on the other side, that's normally what you pick up, right? The messages from loved ones for reader, the people you're sitting with, and stuff like that. What is the number one topic that they want to relay from the other side?
There's not really a specific topic. I mean, they normally just want to recognize that they're, first of all, it's pretty general, but they're okay and they're around them. There may be this week I've had where they may come through to share messages about what's going on in the family or with those in their life right now to help them. They might come through to talk about how they felt when they passed, and how their transition was. Sometimes they bring up some minor things that we think, why in the world are they bringing that up? And it's like, but I've learned to just say it. I think they do that a lot of times to say, even those little insignificant things, what we consider insignificant, was something in my life. And so, and they may bring up, they show me a visual of an item that they had or something like that. I had one, I'm trying to think, the other day I had one, and it was something that she had in a curio cabinet, and didn't recognize she had it till after we got off her session. And she contacted me the next day and said it was in the back of the curio cabinet and didn't even know it. And but it was something, I think they do that as well to say, don't let the little things go by in your life as well. So it all depends on, and again, as you know me, I don't begin by asking you, I don't ask the client at the very beginning, who do they want me to channel? Who do you want me to visit? What's their first name? I just respectfully let those come who wants to visit because they know what we're doing. And so I let them come to visit because they know what we're doing and they know the ones that needs to come and share the messages. So I just allow them to come forward. And most of it's family because they're about you and love you. But, there's times I'll have, I had one here a while back where it had nothing to do with anyone in the group that was there, but it had to do with what happened there in that town. And it was a cold case. And I was getting something about that, and they're following up on that right now as we speak. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So it all depends on the individual.
Do any of the people that you try to read for? Do you ever find that they're either too blocked or they're just dealing with grief to where you can't read for them?
For 20 some years, I've always been nervous. Like, what if somebody comes for an appointment and nobody shows up? What am I going to do? But they always do because they know what we're doing. But I've had those that'll come in. I love it. And I'm a man, but I love it when the men we're raised to, in order to believe you got to see it, touch it, and feel it. And I love it when men come in to an appointment with their wife or with their spouse or the significant other, and they're sitting there, not all of them, but some will sit there and they'll give me this look like, I'm just here for her. And by the end of the session, because of the connections we got for him, from a loved one, they're crying, tears are flowing down their face. They're hugging me at the end saying, this is great, and it's like, that's why you're here. That's why you're here. So if you block it, and I respect that. If you choose not to believe, I always share with everyone, whether you believe me or not, when you leave my office, just believe that. I want you to have the comfort and belief in knowing that there's more than just life here. Just have that with you. And so I allow them to be if they want to block them, that's fine. You're not going to block me.
Rick, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I'm always honored when you come on.
Crazy, CL. Time goes so fast with you. I'm telling you.
It's just gone, just like that. I did want to talk about your books a little bit, and how do people contact you?
Well, just contact me. Go to lifesgift.com. That's my website, lifesgift.com. All the information there. And also, I'm on social media. Also got a subscription-based show that we just launched about a month ago. It's called So Touch. You can find out more information about that on the website as well. So I'm everywhere. Google me. I'm everywhere.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I hate that we're at the end of the hour. I had a bunch more stuff to ask you, but that's how it goes,
Well, invite me back. Invite me back. I'll be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's really great seeing you again.
And believe.
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 And that is my friend, Rick Hayes. I just love that guy. He's so positive. I'm definitely going to have him come back on the show, you guys, in the near future. But you've been listening to the Gateway podcast. It's broadcast live from United Public Radio, 107.7 FM New Orleans. And thank you guys for your support. And until next time.